Happy Monday. Welcome to the news and why it matters. I am Sarah Gonzalez. Stu, what was the top story for you today?
If you thought the direction of the media was bad yesterday, you're going to think it's even worse today.
Oh, hashtag evergreen. Jason Howerton.
If you thought the direction of the Democratic Party was bad, wait till you see what's going on today with one of the failed congressional candidates.
I see what you did there. And Mr. Andrew Heaton.
But there's at least one valiant Democrat fighting against socialism, and I will give him due applause.
We don't want to give them credit here.
On this network, it's not allowed.
All right, obviously a lot to get into. First, we want to thank our sponsor, American Financing. So I won't do this one to you. I'll just talk about American Financing and not badly about you.
Yeah, that's nice. For once, it would be nice. We like American Financing here. Sarah doesn't like me, but I like American Financing. They're great. I dealt with them when we were going through our house, buying our house here in Texas. And they were really able to walk me through the entire process, give me everything that I needed to go through with the buy, and actually make me understand it too, which was valuable to me, because usually it's just like, just pay this much and don't worry about it. It's a big financial transaction, so you should go with someone you actually trust. And American Financing has salary-based consultants, so they don't care about getting you into, for commissions or anything like that. They just, care about doing the best they can for their customers, so you come back. So it's a great way of being set up, and American Financing has done a great job for, myself and Glenn and many others in the audience. So
if you are looking to refinance, just purchase a home, whatever the case may be, you can go to AmericanFinancing.net or you can call 800-906-2440. All right, Stu.
I feel like this is a multi-layered one because we start with the Nancy Pelosi doctored video. This is what was posted initially on a couple of very small news sites on Facebook about Nancy Pelosi blurting out this, the typical nonsense Nancy Pelosi blurts out, but slightly slower than normal. Watch.
Clean water infrastructure, the satellites, so that we can have precision farming. There's so many needs, and we thought we had some level of agreement. But you never know with this president of the United States. So that's what happened. This is the regular one, right? It was very, very, very strange.
Now, this is a little known fact if you don't happen to be in the business of radio, which is if you slow anyone's voice down just a tiny, tiny bit, they seem very drunk. We've used this to great effect over the years. It's actually a really fun thing, and it's not something you're trying to destroy Nancy Pelosi's reputation. It's a funny way of watching someone speak, frankly. Like we do this thing called Helium Thursdays on the air where we'll take politicians speak and put them through a helium sort of compressor and change the pitch of their voice. And that's also funny. I don't know why. It just is. So we've done this like 100 times on the air, and it's like a very typical thing that you do. We've done it to Republicans and Democrats. So the Daily Beast decides to go on a journalistic jihad to figure out what person posted this video of Nancy Pelosi. Now, I think there is legitimate criticism to be handed out to people like Rudy Giuliani, who actually tweeted this as if it was real. Mm-hmm. You should be able in 2019 to take a moment and figure out if it's the legitimate video when this person is talking as if she's absolutely hammered on stage. You should know to check it out and see if it's real.
And isn't that where the accountability lies, is in the public figures who share this information, right?
I think so. I mean, Giuliani in particular is just that's just embarrassing. Come on, dude. You're the president's personal lawyer. You're supposed to be the guy who's on top of the facts, which we know he's not. It's been a wonderful ride with Rudy over these years. I don't understand what the Daily Beast has done. So the Daily Beast, not known for their journalistic integrity, particularly around this building, has decided to go and try to find out what was going on with the person who posted this. What was the source of it? So they dove deep and basically doxed this unknown day laborer in New York City and went through his entire work history, his entire criminal history, basically put his picture up there, did everything they could to try to make this guy's life a disaster. Glenn Greenwald, I think, explained my position on this better than I can today. But there's another layer to this I want to get to. But he wrote, "Can't believe honestly that journalists don't see why it's so repellent to unleash the resources of a major news outlet on an obscure, anonymous, powerless, quasi-employed citizen for the crime of trivially mocking the most powerful political leaders. Drag an African-American day laborer into the spotlight and try to ruin his life because he made a trivial video about Nancy Pelosi. The only worst part is how you're celebrating yourselves like you did something brave and important, nauseating." And he writes again, the justifications being offered by rank-closing journalists to justify a major media outlet having investigated, doxed, and exposed an anonymous day laborer for the crime of posting a mocking video of Nancy Pelosi are almost more repugnant than the journalistic bullying itself. Totally agree on these points. I mean, like, again, like, it is not as if this guy has any influence. He's a guy struggling to pay any of his bills. He is, look, he's just a normal citizen posting a video who never thought anyone would even see it, probably, outside of a very tight audience.
Did you see on CNN when, I don't even know his name because that's how little he means to me, but the editor-in-chief of the Daily Beast, when asked, you're being criticized for doing this, like, do you stand behind it? And his response was he actually put the responsibility on him for outing himself by tying himself to the video and to his websites that he operates, which was like, that's like I couldn't. It took me a second to like figure out what he meant by that.
Because if you read the story, they take great pain and pleasure to tell you how wonderful, how smart they were because they dug into a line of code to see his name there. That's how they initially found who he was, because he was raising money for something related to this. So
you
Facebook
agree it's
page.
his fault that he put his name in the code?
Like, come on, like. And he's of no consequence to anyone. I mean, like,
can I ask a couple questions? Because I'm actually, I've seen bits and pieces of this, but I'm not super familiar with it. For me as a comedian, I would like to know if this guy was doing a joke or if he was doing a political hit job, because that changes the timbre of it for me. Like, the intentionality behind it's important to me. If he was like, "Hey, she looks drunk, check this out," like, that's fine. You guys do that, but you're making the reality of it clear at the same time.
I would say I don't know for sure. He is saying he didn't even post it. We should point that out, that he's denying that he even did this. We'll get to that in just a second because there's another layer to this. So he's saying he didn't even do it. But so I don't know whether it was a joke or not. My guess is it wasn't like accompanied with tons of serious commentary. There's something wrong with Nancy Pelosi. He had written on another page around the same time, he made sort of a comment about her being drunk. They're sort of pseudo fake news sites, I would say, is what he runs. These are kind of like this shilly sort of Facebook news, the hyperbolic sort of news sites. It's not something that I like. But again, like, we have to look at, I think, the scale of things here. You have a major media organization going after an individual who posted something to a small group of people, didn't know that Rudy Giuliani was going to see it, right? Like, this is a guy who might be doing something wrong even, but does punishment versus crime? I don't see the levels here. I feel like taking this guy and running his life through the mud and exposing everything like this is just a shoddy overextension of punishing somebody for doing something minor. Like, that doesn't mean he didn't do anything.
The point that I made was this: is like, you can find fake news everywhere, on every side of the aisle. So is this the new thing? Like, anyone who posts anything that's false, like, are we going to go dox them? Like,
can we dox CNN reporters now?
How many fake news
all the time.
Trump videos have there been? And how many had the media gone after and like identified? Like, so it's just about punching down. Like, you're punching down at a guy who is nobody. Like, debunk it. That's your job, right? To debunk fake news and to make sure that set the record straight. But what does his identity, his criminal history, what does that do to the conversation? I say nothing. I don't think it advances anything.
And I would argue there's maybe even an argument for a piece where you don't identify him and you maybe tell his story loosely to see, like, okay, this is it is mildly interesting to see who posted it originally, but like, it's not like it was a big campaign and with the intent of what happened. It was just a silly post on a minor site.
I think the initial cover was, we thought it was going to be a Russian.
Right. That was their
that was their thing. Like, that's why we had to investigate so thoroughly, because it was a Russian, and then it turned out not to be. But here's his information anyway.
Yeah. So I feel like he's getting punished for a hit and run, and he did a speeding ticket.
I think I would call him out, but I wouldn't dox him. I think if his goal was to perpetrate some kind of falsehood in order to smear a political operative, and he's adding non-truth to the ecosystem, I do think that would require some kind of response, which could involve going, "Hey, this guy did this. It's bad."
You could even call out his websites, right?
Yeah, exactly.
These are fake news.
Yeah,
websites.
exactly. I think for me the issue is proportionality. Like doxing. I don't really ever want anybody doxed. I feel like doxing is just like that's kind of the 21st century of being like burned at the stake or something.
And it's forever, right? Like anytime anybody Googles his name, all these articles are going to come up. People are going to know his criminal history. Like to me, that should be the last thing that you do.
But again, I actually think this is the second most important part to the story, because in the investigation, you wonder how
She was drunk?
She was drunk. She really was, and she's really speaking slow. No, it's that they went to confirm this deep investigation that they did, and they went to ask Facebook, and Facebook answered them. So listen to these quotes from the story. Quote, a Facebook official confirming a Daily Beast investigation said the video was first posted on Politics Watchdog directly from Brooks' personal Facebook account. Why the hell is Facebook telling a media organization,
I did not know
going in and seeing the initial, like how, because so think about this, he goes into his personal post, they actually look at where his personal page and the things he's posting. Just an individual citizen, a regular member of those that committed no crime, in fact, didn't even violate their standards and practices. They're actually outing to a media organization that asks for what they're posting secretly on their own page.
Have you verified this, though? Because Facebook's record on privacy is so strong that I would be very surprised if that actually happened.
Well, they did say it again in the same article. Brooks insisted repeatedly he was not the one who posted the Pelosi clips on the Politics Watchdog. He claimed he's just one of a half a dozen administrators who jointly control the page and its content. According to the official from Facebook, there were indeed 6 other accounts registered alongside Brooks as page administrators, but the company determined last week that all 6 of them were controlled by Brooks. Why on earth are they telling this to just some random Daily Beast reporter? I mean, that is an incredible violation of your privacy. Again, I am not saying that I love everything that happened here. I'm not trying to defend the guy. He doesn't seem like a wonderful guy, frankly, the way they paint him, but of course they painted him as a horrible guy. But I mean, the idea that you would go to Facebook and Facebook would out the individual postings of a private account just to screw over some guy they don't like or some politician they don't like is massively irresponsible. And this is the real story here, I think.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Jason, I want to make sure we have time to move on to your topic, which you said if you think the Democrat Party was bad yesterday, it's even worse today.
Yeah, wait for today.
I feel like that's another evergreen.
The new thing, I feel like, the new thing among the Democrat Party is you can't say that you love America. Like, it's like this weird thing where you can't admit it. Like, it has to be couched with oppression or like some sort of just disclaimer that America is not awesome. Like, we live here but we're not awesome. Like, we're not great, right? Mm-hmm. Don't make America great again because it was never great. So this congressional candidate who failed in Colorado, which after this, I wouldn't be surprised if she gets elected. I'll let you, you can rebut me later with your Democrat star. But she came out and she said a number of things in the last couple of days. This wasn't one of those things that like people dug through her account. This was like the last couple of days.
Right there.
She went full far left, anti-American. So one of her tweets was, "The American flag makes me sick." That's pretty self-explanatory.
Fairly direct.
But this is the one that I'm more interested in because it exposes something very important about discourse on sites like Twitter and Facebook and these other platforms that are saying we have to deplatform hate, we have to deplatform racial discrimination, all this stuff. So this is the tweet from Sarah Rao. She's a Democrat in Colorado, activist, failed congressional candidate. Quote, "White people have done everything to make my life miserable, yet I'm supposed to not hate white people."
Amen.
So the word is hate, right? She's saying out loud in public on Twitter that she hates white people. So people based on the color of their skin.
It sounds kind of racist.
It does. Thank you.
One may construe it that way.
It's going to take me a while.
Think about it.
It was going to take me a while to connect those dots, but you did it for me. But I hate the what if game. I really do, and I rarely play it, but I'm going to play it. Just put that on my account with black people. Mm-hmm. Like you can't do that. Like that.
You're not only off Twitter. You're out of every
life.
Mm-hmm. Your career's over.
It's done. Mm-hmm. But somehow, not only is that accepted on, at least on the vocal far. I think you do a really good job of kind of being balanced in the way we generalize. But at least in the vocal far left.
Yeah. The hashtag activist is
That
horrible.
is acceptable. Not only acceptable, it's kind of applauded. Like to hate white people or white men or like talk disparagingly about them. And this is kind of the direction that I'm seeing, at least the activist left moving, and the liberal politicians are actually embracing this because they feel like, because they're the loudest, that this is their constituents.
Well, and they're bringing back something very dangerous, which is racialist thinking. So like, we'll set aside racism for a second, although it very much factors into this. Racialist thinking is this idea that like, I need to view you as a white man. And I need to view you as a white man, and I need to view you based on immutable characteristics like skin color and gender and that kind of thing. Now, we had a system that used to be bigoted, right? We had slavery, we had things like that, and we moved away from that, which is good. We were moving to, like I was raised with the whole, like, you know, you're not supposed to think about people about their skin color, you're supposed to view them as an individual, all that kind of stuff. And there's another group, the activist left, that's come back around, and they're like, actually, you know what, like the racial hierarchy is a decent idea, we just had the pieces wrong. Okay, no, fixed it. And I'm like, no, I don't want a racial hierarchy. I don't want that at all. It's not that like I'm okay as long as white people are at the bottom. No, I don't want that. I want the pyramid scattered.
Louis C.K. had a great bit back in the day about racism and slavery, and he said, you know, he was talking about how awesome it was to be a white person, like in America, which is like, he was like, how can you even deny that it's easier or better to be a white person? Like, it's not that we're better, but clearly it's better to be white. And he's like, it's not going to go from, you know, because of what's happened, it's not going to go from white people being on the very top to just everybody being equal. He kind of made the argument in a joking way that that pendulum is going to swing, and I had no idea kind of how accurate that is kind of turning out to be now. And so that's where I think we are, is that pendulum is swinging so hard. Instead of us becoming more equal, it's now kind of like the pieces are being shuffled.
Last word.
Weirdly, I think it very oddly buttresses, say, like Richard Spencer, because Richard Spencer is a neo-Nazi. Like he would very much want you and I to think of ourselves as white males, 100%. Now I don't. I think of myself as like a comedian who likes Star Trek and that kind of thing. My skin color is a demographic issue, but he would like it to be that way. And I feel like there's a lot of people that, while they don't have the same goals, are emphasizing that racialist worldview.
Yeah. God help us.
All right, great point. Back in a minute.
Good topic.
I love on her bio, some columnist of Brown Girl.
I'll be honest though.
Before we get back into the conversation, I want to thank our sponsor, Relief Factor. So I was in a car accident in 2013, messed up my back, messed up my knee, had surgery on my knee. It got better, but my back was still protruding herniated discs. You know, you don't realize it until you're in the position, but when you're in pain like that, it affects every single part of your life. Like you're grumpy all the time. You might, snap at your spouse or your girlfriend, and it affects you, and it doesn't stop. It just goes on all day. Well, we here at The Blaze, we have had really great success using Relief Factor. I know Glenn has had an amazing success on it as well. He was in a lot more severe pain than I was, but it's 100% drug-free. It was created by doctors, and it's natural ingredients that target your body's inflammation, which in most cases that's where your pain is coming from, right? So you can try it right now. If you go to relieffactor.com, get the 3-week quick start pack. It's $19.95. 70% of the people who buy it go on to keep purchasing more. It's working for the majority of people. It can work for you, and the odds are in your favor, and it's $20. That's worth the $20 to get out of pain. Relieffactor.com or 800-500-8384. All right, Andrew, you're going to give us some optimism.
I'll give you some.
That's what you do on this show.
I'll give you some optimism, and I'll piggyback off of what you were talking a minute ago. I'm really glad that you drew the distinction between the activist left and the rest of the progressive movement, because the political parties, the people running political parties, would like you to think that there is a monoform red team and a monoform blue team, and one is good and one is bad. And the reality is that there's people all across the board. I'm not on either team. I think they're both awful. But when it comes to the Democratic Party, there are these different camps that are now vying for power. And you're seeing that play out in the presidential election. You've got the nascent rising socialist wing of the progressive movement, which I am not at all pleased by. I do not like seeing Bernie Sanders being high in the polls. I'm glad Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez isn't running. She probably will. That will be terrifying as well. However, you do have some other people in it that are actually pro-market. We'll play a clip of one.
If we want to beat Donald Trump and achieve big progressive goals, socialism is not the answer. I was reelected I was reelected in a purple state in 2014, one of the worst years for Democrats in a quarter century. We shouldn't try to achieve universal coverage by removing private insurance from over 150 million Americans. We should not try to tackle climate change by guaranteeing every American a government job. Hold on. As the Democratic Party, we have to create a vision for this country.
They can't even listen to
I want to give Americans a reason to look forward to tomorrow.
Boo. Looking forward to tomorrow.
Who wants to look forward to tomorrow?
Boo. We're dying in 11 years. Come on.
Oh, yeah. Oh, poor John. I like John Hickenlooper, and it breaks my heart when he gets shouted. Although this was in San Francisco with the California Democratic Party. And just as there are different packets ideologically, I will say geographically things are different. An Oklahoma Democrat, at least when I was an Oklahoma Democrat, was different than like a California Democrat. Colorado Democrats tend to be, in my experience, more pragmatic than California Democrats who don't believe in math.
They're chilled out on the weed. That's why.
I can understand why they would boo those types of policies because they've been doing so well with their policies.
Yeah,
California is great.
Exactly. Yeah, Colorado doing a pretty good job actually. And I'll add to that from an electoral standpoint. Like, do you know who I think might win purple states? People who've won purple states. I actually think that people that have a track record doing that, like John Hickenlooper, might have a better opportunity than, say, like Beto, who lost. Right. Or, more importantly, like someone from a hard left position and a blue position. So the optimism is this. There are people within the Democratic Party that believe in math and have a pro-market outlook.
They just get booed.
Right,
unfortunately, they're not leading the pack right now, and I hope they do. I would love to see.
That's an understatement, Andrew.
Yeah, well, Klobuchar's doing all right. Like, she's like at 8th.
Yeah, because I do this
compared to Hickenlooper.
Candidate rankings, and I've been working on these for this week, and it's like you can find actually several people in the Democratic field that will say, I don't like socialism. John Delaney is one. Hickenlooper, Bennett at some level
got booed too
he got
not
booed too.
supporting Medicare for all.
Right, and that's the problem. They're all like 14 and below for the most. Klobuchar's a little higher. And people would argue, I think, that Biden is the actual place where people are putting that emphasis. And now I don't think Biden's that guy, but Biden wants you to think he's that guy. And I'm a little concerned with some of these Democrats. Hickenlooper actually had a comment that made me a little nervous about him in that he said something to the effect of, you can have very progressive ideas, but you have to present them in a moderate way. And it's like, well, that's kind of just lying to me. Now Hickenlooper's record on certain issues I think is really bad. On certain issues is okay. Like, you're right, he's better. I would certainly rather have him than a lot of the people in that field. His record on guns and stuff I'm not too fond of. But
sure. He's not a Republican. No one's claiming that he is.
Totally. He is a Democrat, but I mean he's at least not Ocasio-Cortez. He's not these other types. I get nervous when they talk like that because I think Biden's a great example of this. Biden is not a moderate. Biden he was one of the most progressive senators in the Senate in 2008 when he was running for president. And the idea that people are looking to him as a moderate partially fills me with a little hope. Like the Democrats, to your point, like they're actually not looking for the 9,000 socialists they have to choose for. They'd rather have this guy who's kind of old-timey and has some kind of conservative things on his record and kind of comes off as a moderate and likable. And hey, maybe there's some hope for the Democratic Party. On the other side, like it makes me nervous because I don't think that's who Joe Biden actually is. He may be likable, but he's no moderate.
I think he's a temperamental moderate, but that's different than being a policy moderate or an ideological moderate. I'm not even because if you go back and look at Biden, who I've soured on Biden. I was kind of, if you recall, I was kind of Biden, and he seems like a nice guy. Yes. Like as a person, I prefer him to Donald Trump, but in terms of actual policies, like I look at the Democratic Party right now, and I'm like, so you're basically going to run against Donald Trump. Male Hillary Clinton. Because from a policy perspective, it's exactly the same. He voted for the war in Iraq. He was against super predators. He was big on the crime bill. Like all these things. I'm like, what? Like you already did that. Yeah. Go with Hickenlooper.
You are so pro Hickenlooper. I think that your biggest campaign brought you on here.
I want to see the Republican Party. I want the Libertarian wing to grow and prosper, and I want to see like the Ben Sass conservative intelligentsia do better, and I want to see the Jeff Flakes go away, or not Jeff Flake, Jeff Sessions go away, and I want the Democrats to nurse that pragmatic pro-business wing. I want that to happen.
All right, back in a minute.
You realize all the things you want to happen are going the exact opposite. You can't even say Justin Amatz's name.
Coming up in overtime, we are going to talk about the new Illinois abortion bill. Woo, the most progressive abortion bill out there. So exciting. I've also got a video about it on Sarah Gonzalez Unfiltered, so make sure to check that out on YouTube. The pink-haired feminist makes another appearance for those of you who are fans.